So I'm very happy to be speaking to Matteo today. Matteo is the co-founder and CEO of Zick Learn, a Zanichelli Venture portfolio company. Zick Learn delivers corporate training via texts on WhatsApp, Slack, Microsoft Teams, and other platforms. Thank you for joining the podcast, Matteo.
Thanks for hosting me, Luigi, and ciao to everybody.
So did I get the description of Zick Learn right? Is that what Zick Learn does?
Yeah, better said. I would say we are in the business of disrupting corporate trainings for the time being.
Okay, so why trainings via text? Why via WhatsApp and Slack texts?
So I think, first of all, it's important to understand the context. And the context of corporate trainings is that it's a failing industry. Nobody is doing their trainings anymore. If you look at what's happening on the market, depending on the market research you decide to trust, standard e-learning incorporation fails between 80% and 95% of the times, which means employees are not being trained anymore. Reasons are multiple. Using one word, I would say that it's a factor of time. People do not have time to be trained anymore. And it's not just they don't have time, but they also want to have a better work-life balance, which means, reverting back to time, that the time they were investing to be focusing on trainings once upon a time, pre-pandemic, let's say, which was the weekend, it's not available anymore. People want to focus on their own interests during their free time, not on their organization's interest, even when they have the right of being trained. And if being trained is employees' right, then it becomes an employer obligation to train them. But it's kind of being lost in translation. So it's not working anymore. And originally, the reason why the idea behind Zick Learn was born, it's because I was one of these employees. And in my previous organization, I became famous because I was the one employee. I worked there for 10 years. And I left the company with 0 corporate trainings done because I thought that I had better things to invest my time. For example, my teams or my clients. And I was speaking about this with Andrea, one of my co-founders, and he had the same experience. We're both recovering consultants. So he had the same experience in the organization he was working for. And so we said, well, maybe if 2 of us have the same problem, maybe it's a massively distributed problem. And if we can find a solution, then we are in business. So we partnered with UC Berkeley, the Learning Science Department of UC Berkeley. And the mission we had for our foundational research was, okay, what's the best methodology? And within this methodology, which is the best tool to finally make the employees learn? And I mean, it was a pretty thorough study. And the result is that microlearning together with spaced learning are the best methodologies. Microlearning especially is becoming extremely popular nowadays. And the best tool to use is text, especially if you want to maximize completion rates, minimize time to completion, and maximize engagement. Nothing beats text, especially if you think that we live in a world polluted with multiple distractions. So if you're watching a video and then you receive a notification, then your attention focus shifts and you're losing content. With text, text is the only truly multitasking tool we have at our hands, because we can stop reading one line, we can be distracting, and then get back to the same line with no loss of content at all.
So basically, how does it work? Is there like a platform where potentially a learning manager decides what content to deliver to employees who then receive texts. What do these texts look like? How long are they usually on average? And how do you decide how much content to put into one text? And then, okay, then stop here and then more content in the next text. When is the next text? Like all of these bunch of details about the features.
So let's say the product is twofold, and we only control 50% of it. So we built an online platform to make something very complex, which is building text-based micro-learning super easy. Mm-hmm. And the platform takes care of the distribution towards the learners' channels. And on the other side, the learners' channels are the WhatsApp, the Teams, the Slacks, the WebEx of this world. And that's why I was saying we only control 50% of the platform, because we can only get to the point of optimizing the learner's experience on their preferred channel to the maximum. But at the end of the day, we're not the one controlling that channel, which is also one of the powerful features of our product. Because if you think about scaling to the millions, it's on the shoulders of Teams or of WhatsApp. We don't need to scale to the millions to support the delivery of millions of lessons. And on the other side, we are extremely frictionless, because not relying on our own client, it means for the learners that we deliver the lessons right in their own pockets on the devices they already have and use, and on the applications they already have and use. They don't need to install a net new application. They don't need to create a net new login. And if you think about the organization IT, they don't need to integrate a net new software because it's already there. It's the corporate chat client they're already using. So that's what we're trying to do on all the layers, being frictionless for the content creators, being frictionless for the IT organization, and being frictionless for the students.
Okay, but so there's still, like, the manager of the course would still be the figure of the learning manager in a corporation who then decides what content to deliver?
Depends on the business case. Usually, yes. Usually our client is HR or the learning and development organization or the corporate university, depending on the size of the client. And usually within these organizations, it's usually the learning manager or the learning designers who create the content and take care of the distribution and of the tracking of how the training is going.
And they can do that through the Zick Learn platform. And then, of course, as you were explaining, as your mission is to make it as seamless as possible and as frictionless as possible, it gets delivered to via WhatsApp and whatnot, via text. So basically, there's the platform and there's the texts, right?
Correct.
Okay. Could we take a look at the platform?
Absolutely. So what you see now is basically what my client uses. This is the administration dashboard. You have some high-level statistics on the left that takes care of the most important completion rates. And on the right part, you have what I would be calling your training library. A training can be in draft. It's a training we're still working on the content, can be scheduled, which means content has been created, training has been scheduled, and it's ready to be shipped to the class. Active training, it's a training being performed by a class. And then delivered training are the completed trainings. Everybody in that class has completed a training. And you can see that for the active and delivered training, you have some high-level statistics popping up. And the interesting thing about the platform is that whenever I speak about analytics or statistics, it's in real time. So everything your trainees do while experiencing the training, it's mapped through data in real time on your dashboard.
Yeah. What kind of sorry, go ahead.
I was just about to say that the product is divided into 3 sections: creating and managing trainings, creating and managing learners, and then insights and analytics.
So there's dashboard, create a course, learners, and insights. Can we take a look at all of this?
Oh, absolutely. For the sake of not being too much heavy on the timing, I already created a training for us. I'm just gonna go and edit it, but it's the same process than creating it. So it's a 3-step wizard-based process that starts with some high-level information that are very useful for the training portal. The training portal is a web application available to the learners, one-to-one to each single learner, where they can track the trainings they have been subscribed to, some high-level statistics about their experience, ongoing experience or past experience, and also understand what's the next training for them. And they also can control their preferences. For example, what's the channel I want to receive the training on? Or what's the language? I'll be speaking more about languages later, but what's the language I want to study in? At the end of the day, we build a platform that can optimize to the maximum the learner's experience independently from the delivery channel. So the learning designer can decide to build a training once and then distribute the training on Microsoft Teams and on WhatsApp in parallel, without bothering, oh my God, I should design this exercise for WhatsApp, which doesn't always support buttons, or for Teams, which always supports buttons. The platform takes care of that by itself, so that we want to put the learner in the position of deciding what's the best way for her to learn, which means in which language I want to have to receive my trainings and on which platform I want to consume them.
As you were saying, the different messaging platforms give different feature availabilities, different affordances. So basically, if I understand it right, you give the possibility to include, say, buttons that are supported on Teams but aren't supported on WhatsApp. You give the possibility to include those, but also automatically adjust the course in a way that it's going to go on WhatsApp without that feature, and it's going to work seamlessly anyway.
Yeah, I think that the superpower of the people using Zick Learn as an administrator, usually it's the learning designer, it's not imagining how the interaction on the training should be deployed. It's creating amazing content and an amazing learning experience. That's their business. So we make it easy for them to do everything else. They're not translators, so we're translating automatically for them. They're not programmers, and I don't think they need to care whether or not on WhatsApp I'm gonna have a button or a text and a select on Teams. It's our business. So the platform automates all these tasks with the objective of making the best possible experience for the learner at the other side of the spectrum. Yeah.
I'd love to take a look at the other parts of the platform.
Sure. Obviously, step 2, it's where the magic happens. It's where all the content is built. Every lesson, independently from the channel, is divided into a title, an intro, and the content itself. You can see we're very thorough in checking the length of what you're writing, because coming from our foundational research with Berkeley, it's very important to increase our KPI in terms of consumption of the training to visually show that it won't be taking a lot of your time to complete the lesson. So we want the lesson to be maximum 2 screens long on a smartphone, so that the exercise, it's always one swipe away. And this affordance of the lesson visually convince you to dive into the content right away, because you realize it's short.
Yeah. You're answering my original question about the length of the texts, and I think we're picking, like we're starting to understand how the texts look as well. But I am wondering on this point you were mentioning, it makes total sense. I wonder, I think two things. On one side, whether your foundational research was supporting that a feeling of overwhelm would kind of be a threshold that determined whether employees would engage with learning content or not. And that's my first question.
You mean what happened today before Zick Learn?
Yeah, because it seems, as you were saying, you want to reduce text length or try to kind of put some limits on the length of the texts. And it seems like the reason is because, I would guess the reason might be because if they were too long, then the risk is that employees would not engage with them. Is this the reason?
I mean, let's start from a basic analysis of human behavior, right? If even without speaking about learning, if you are in weightlifting, right, and you know you need to lift a 10 kilos weight for 100 times, and you have it to start and finish 100 times, it's very likely you're never gonna start, because you believe that the task is way too big, and at the end of the task you'll be way too fatigued. But if I change the task and I say, well, in the next, I don't know, 10 hours, you need to lift the weight just 10 times every hour, then you can relax. Then it's more likely then you get to the completion of the task.
Yeah.
And if I move this metaphor to the corporate learning, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
We have clients with 200 slides training, which usually needs between 2 and 9 hours to be completed.
Yeah.
Would you rather start learning 200 slides or read a couple of screens of text?
Yeah. I guess this is the whole point of microlearning in the context of Zick Learn.
Absolutely, yes. And that's why it's working so well. If I look at data, I'm a data person, so I like having assumptions and then measuring these assumptions on the real life data.
Yeah.
And I was speaking at the beginning of our chat about how standard learning is failing on the market for corporate trainings. And the completion rate varies between 5 and 15%. With Zick Learn, and these are data coming from our clients, we're nearly to 90%. Mm-hmm. And completion rate for us, what we're measuring, it's not just the learner has finished the training, because we know the effect very well. We know it so well, we created a name for it, and it's the skip factory, which is what's happening with standard trainings. You do next, just to get to the very end of the training the fastest way possible, so that your HR is happy, but you haven't learned anything.
Yeah.
With Zick Learn, the experience is completely different, because you don't need to press next to get to the end of the training. It's already there. And that's why we're getting such a high amount, nearly 90% of completion rates. And it's trainings that have been completed with at least 75% of exercises answered correctly. So we're measuring the real learning, not just the completion of the training.
I wonder whether you give the possibility, like, do you attach multimedia pieces to texts?
So obviously, every lesson comes with an exercise. We currently support multiple choice or true or false. Every exercise, and this is all based on the research we have done, every exercise comes with a feedback, because the exercise is not important to verify if they have learned, but to help your learners to memorize the content. So every interaction moment, it's an important moment to help memorization. And even though we are true believers in the power of text, we also know that in some cases, our clients need to deliver a multimedia attachment. So we support videos, audios, PDFs, Word files that you can attach to every lesson, and then are automatically delivered within the chat client. So no emails in the whole experience. Even the exercise is within the chat client. We deliver this multimedia attachment in between two lessons. So once you have completed the exercise, then you get the attachment, which could be a great way for learning designers to make their students go deeper into the topic they have studied through the microtraining.
Has it ever, is it possible for a student to receive instead like a microclip, like a 1-minute microclip first and answer some questions on the microclip? Does that as well?
Not really, and it's not obviously a technical limitation. It's a behavioral limitation we embodied in the product. Because again, if you think about the multiplicity of distractions you have in your day, you want snackable content that can be compatible with these distractions, and videos simply is not.
I understand.
And then I'm also a true believer that Zick Learn, it's not the one ring to rule them all.
Yeah.
The large majority of my clients have an LMS in place.
Yeah.
And they keep using this LMS. But Zick Learn nowadays, in the future, my vision is that this is going to be completely disrupted. But as of today, Zick Learn is just an additional channel where, for example, you can do refresh trainings. So your employee already did a training on your LMS or participated into an in-person workshop, and a month later receives the same content in Zick Learn format, just to, for example, help her memorize the content they already have learned.
Yeah. This is, I was going to ask, and I was going to get to integrations, LMS, LTI, and from what I already know about Zick Learn, this is, I think, a very important aspect that it's a great tool. I think to have, as you were saying, that can complement with other circumstances as well, because we can imagine. But I was going to get to this in a little while. We can imagine some corporate trainings that also require other kind of training, like role plays and I mean, different methods of instruction, right? So the possibility of complementing different kinds of instruction, and Zick being able to deliver the microlearning part via text is, I think, a very important puzzle piece. But we can still keep this for a little later. I was hoping we could see the remaining parts of the platform.
Sure. So you can see that we deliver one lesson every 24 hours. This is, again, is based on our findings. 24 hours, it's the best delta between two lessons to, number one, keep the pace for the learner, so they're not forgetting, they're being trained, or they're not overwhelmed with trainings, with content. But on the other side, if you look at the way our brain is built, it's the best delta in time for our memory to retain the concepts we have learned. And again, the learning designers doesn't need to bother about this. The platform does it automatically. And obviously, you can add as many days. Instead of calling them lessons, we call them days. Every 24 hours, it's a day. You can add as many days as possible.
Yeah.
But most importantly, a piece of technology that it's fundamental for our vision is our AI-based translation tool. And this is based, the reason that in a world of generative AIs, our first investment was in building a transformative AI. Instead of generating, we're just transforming content, which is much less popular, much less fancy. It's because I believe that even though we speak multiple languages, the best language to be used when training ourselves is the language we speak in our daily life. It's our mother tongue language. But if you look at organizations, usually the trainings are in English, especially the type of targets we have, right? So large and very large scale organizations, which are usually multinationals or with multiple offices in different countries or multiple nationalities in the same office, the business language is English. So all the trainings are in English, but why they are in English? Because it's effort rich and it's expensive to translate them for everybody.
Yeah.
Or effort could also be time. I was speaking with a client, a financial institution. They received their training from the headquarter in English, and then it takes to them 3 to 5 months to get it translated and ready for the Italian population. This was an Italian client.
Yeah.
But why should HR offices being bothered with this complexity?
Yeah.
If we have a piece of technology that we can solve it.
Yeah.
So the AI we're using, it's one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful technology available on the market. It's the same technology used by Airbnb for their automated translations in their listings, for example. And we support over 200 languages. And the quality, this AI has been trained for over 20 years by more than 30,000 professional translators. So the quality of the translation and the way that the different languages are treated differently one from the other, it's amazing. And the quality is super high. So for example, one of our target markets today, it's South Africa. So in South Africa, English is the main language, but you also speak Afrikaans or Zulu or Swahili. So we're letting organizations in South Africa, delivering content in the preferred language of all their trainees, not just of the language that's it's the business language. You're Italian, so I'm happy to translate to Italian, but I can also do some more exotic languages if you wish to.
Chinese, I speak Chinese.
Oh my God. I never translated to Chinese.
I went for the very exotic option, I guess. I can also do French or Spanish or Italian.
Let me look. I'm just not. I know Chinese is here. I just don't see it.
Chinese
Okay.
simplified.
Simplified. And by the way, one of my colleagues is an Irish guy who, during the pandemic, was an English teacher in China. So he speaks a very good Chinese, and he was amazed by the quality of the translation. So what I do is that I selected the language, I press save, and what was it? Less than a second, you have the entire training translated in the structure with the emojis, the exercises, the feedback to the exercises, and the structure of your entire training. Obviously, do we guarantee this is a perfect translation? Obviously not. But the learning designer always has a chance to go into the translation and fix what they want to fix. And they can add as many languages as they want. So I'll do Italian now. And then these languages are automatically distributed based on your learner's preferences. So, and again, in this training, in a literally a few seconds, I created 3 different versions of the training that I can distribute to as many channels I want to have in my distribution list. And the good thing is that my learners finally can learn with their own style of learning.
Yeah. And the translation is more than workable. It's as you were saying, if it's not always perfect, it's totally fine for the purpose of training delivery. So
absolutely, yes. I'm pretty sure that the quality of the translation is on average much higher on the quality of the English of the majority of the learners on the market.
Yeah, exactly. This was an interesting feature to check out, and I follow your logic on corporate trainings and delivery of corporate trainings in terms of language and adaptation of languages. How about the third tab I see there?
So for the delivery, what is available today is that you can decide any date you want to start distributing this training. You can see that technically we are planning to make it available to change the cadence of the lessons. For now, we're still analyzing the data we're gathering from our clients to understand whether or not this should be a feature or 24 hours is the very best that our learners can do. You select a channel, and I was telling you, you can decide to distribute the training to multiple channels at once. For example, and you can see that I have lists that are on WhatsApp and WebEx. Other lists are only on Teams, other lists only on WhatsApp, so on and so forth. And this is what we were saying before. You can distribute through the platform on multiple channels without bothering the technicalities or even where your learners want to receive the channels. It's their business, not yours.
Yeah.
Obviously, we also have clients who say, no, our corporate chat client is Microsoft Teams. We are not allowed to distribute content outside of it. So we don't want our learners to choose. But it's the choice of my client. It's not a technical choice.
Yeah.
The one piece of AI that we have built the algorithms, but we're still gathering data, it's that we also want to liberate the learning manager from deciding when the training should be distributed, what time of the day, for example. We have learning managers who distribute the training at 7 a.m. And we had to optimize the learner's experience for what we call the embed experience, because we see trainings distributed at 7 a.m. and by 7:05, the majority of the class already has completed the training, probably using the phone with one hand while still in bed. And we see other trainees doing this while doing breakfast, so 7:30, 7:45. Other again, slightly later, probably while they are commuting to the office. And other again, late in the morning, probably in between meetings, so on and so forth. So what we're doing is that we want to automatically cluster the different style of learners and then optimize the distribution, automatically optimize the distribution so that you receive your lesson, you, Luigi, will receive your lesson exactly in the moment which is best for you, which means you have your phone in your hand unlocked. And then this is supported by data coming from WhatsApp, and they say that within 60 seconds by receiving the notification, you open the message.
Yeah.
Which in our world, in the Zick Learn world, which means that within 60 seconds from receiving the lesson, then you start to study.
Yeah.
Though it's a great way to improve the speed to completion KPI.
Yeah. Sounds extremely smart.
The other, I told you, we are in the business of making life frictionless for our users. And the other big chunk of implementation we're doing is another piece of AI. This is ready. We have the machine ready. It has been trained for the past 6 months, and now it's ready. In this case, it is a generative AI. We will be distributing this to our clients in Q3. I believe this is the first time I say this publicly. And it focuses on content transformation, or as we call it, content rejuvenation. So nowadays, our clients are performing an acceleration in productivity because it's much easier to build a training based on text compared to what it's building a training based on slides or even worse, videos. Just to give you a comparison, for the average client, it takes nearly 3 to 4 weeks to build a net new content focusing on standard e-learning, which is usually slide with text and images. It takes 5 days to create net new content, and it's not man days, 5 days of elapsed to create a 12 days training on Zick Learn. So it's already an improvement of 400% in productivity. But we're pushing the boundaries even further. We want all the existing training content that it's in our clients' training libraries to be easily made ready for Zick Learn. And with the new technology we have built, in 3 seconds, you can transform, and this is based on the final experiment we did last week, where we declared the machine to be ready. So we transformed a 140 slides training for procurement for a large-scale organization, European organization, into a 10 days training on Zick Learn.
Wow.
Content, exercises, emojis, formatting, feedback to the exercises, deciding whether it's a true or false or it's a multi-answer. And we tested this on some clients without touching anything. And they didn't believe that no human being has ever touched that content.
Yeah, wow.
Because what we embedded in the AI is exactly all the findings from UC Berkeley, and the way our clients have been manually building content based on the rules we provided them. And now we can do this automatically.
Can this work? This sounds absolutely amazing, of course. It supposes that there are slides already pre-existing. Now I wonder, eventually perhaps people will stop making slides if right, as you're saying, Zick Learn offers an alternative that makes slides obsolete. Now I wonder, can this work with a manual as well?
Not as of now. It's not our strategy. I think eventually, as you say, it will get there. But the proprietary know-how that our clients use to build their trainings, it's so unique that I don't believe it can be automatically generated. But on the other side, they have tons and tons of existing. I was speaking about slides, but we're also supporting videos or PDFs. There's so much content in organizations which is just staying there, and probably much of it is still unused because people just don't want to use it anymore. That can be rejuvenated and make it ready, not just for a new way of using content, of distributing and digesting content, but also thinking about the new generation. If you think about millennials doing 120 slides on procurement, I don't think that training is going to ever be finished. Well, if you distribute WhatsApp messages to a millennial, it's very likely that it suits their style of studying.
I have some questions about where you see the positioning of Zick Learn. We're also running out of time here, and I was wondering whether you would have liked to show us a few other features before.
Okay, so let me show you the features, and then I'll get back to your question. So this is our learner center, right? I can organize my learners with what we call learners lists, which are multidimensional metrics. So you can have, I don't know, sales and accounting, or Northern Europe, Southern Europe, or top performers, bottom performers. You can include your learners in multiple lists and then use them to optimize your distribution. And I can take, just for the sake of example, this learner here, Luigi Marino, who performed a training some days ago. So I see I'm distributing to Luigi through WhatsApp, and he's an active learner, so he already performed a task. So one of the main problems nowadays with learning and development departments is that the data are extremely scarce. Usually, they rely, to gather feedback from the learners, they rely on post-trainings polls. So on qualitative feedback, which is important. But as I told you before, I'm a data person. So our product must provide database feedback. And that's what you can do on a trainee. So for example, I see Luigi is a very good student overall. And you can see he has a 67% completion rate, which means something went wrong in the training. I don't know yet what went wrong. He might have skipped a lesson. He might have answered wrong to one question, but something went wrong. And I want to dig deeper.
I was testing what would happen if I answered, I gave a mistaken answer.
Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed what happened, which was, just for the people watching us, which was, I obviously told you that the answer was wrong, but then, as I was saying before, I'm not testing you, I'm helping you to memorize content. But then I explained you why it was wrong and what you should have answered to make it right.
Yeah.
So even if you failed the exercise, I gave you yet another opportunity to memorize the right content, the most important content of the lesson. And we can see that. I mean, in this training, you only did one training with us. You had a very, very good engagement, 83%. It's super high. And I can open up this data and see you completed the training. Bravo, Luigi. And you got 2 out of 3 exercises answered correctly. And then, one step further, I can see, for example, that on March 27, I dropped you a lesson 1 a.m. in the night, and you answered 9:02. So probably I would be imagining that you were just entering the office and you fired up your WhatsApp. So at the starting of your working day. And you answered correctly, by the way. Second day, middle of the night, and you answered probably when you were getting back from lunch. And the third day, this is where you were experimenting what happened with the wrong answer. You did it probably during your coffee break. And while I'm focusing on the timing of the day, because you were the one in control, you, the student, were the one in control of your learning experience. You had the lesson in your pocket. You knew already it would have taken mere minutes to complete it. The average is 1.5 minutes. Data coming from our clients. And you knew that whenever you had a moment of spare time, you could have been focused a couple of minutes of this spare time on your training.
Yeah.
And I believe this is the real magic of Zick Learn. Not making complex things such as microlearning or translation simple, but liberating the learners and having them deciding their learning style that suits them the best.
Yeah. So my original, what I'm wondering is kind of the topic we touched upon. Oh, by the way, Insights tab before I.
Yeah, insights. I'd be very, very quick about this. We've seen data about the single student, but obviously this is the leaf. We want to see the tree. So we also gather this single real-time data to give you a perspective on your entire organization, and then those single classes, how they're doing. And obviously some more data about distributions, the channels you're using, how many learners are active in the past couple of weeks, how many of them are receiving lessons, so on and so forth.
So this is incredibly important to inform, of course, learning managers in that are using Zick Learn. I wonder, what do you think the positioning of Zick Learn is in the plethora of learning tools that learning managers might want to utilize? We mentioned LMSs earlier. You think LMSs have a limited time, and eventually they might it sounded like you didn't believe they were there to stay for the very long term. Anyway, I'm wondering more about the present and then perhaps about the longer term. But in the present, does Zick Learn, is it LTI compatible, and so does it pass on data to potentially to LMSs, and how do you envision it in the present and in the future being part of a broader set of tools that learning managers can utilize?
So many questions in one. So starting from the present, I perfectly know we are not in competition with LMSs. Not because we don't want to, but because we can't, right? So it's stupid fighting with somebody which is playing in a completely different league. In that case, it's much better to play together with them, because by doing this, you can also learn. It's true in sports, it's true in life, and it's true in business. So what we made is we made it super easy for any software on the market to be integrated with our microservice-based API infrastructure. And it's available for any available license. So every client can integrate Zick Learn with their own system. So for example, I have clients, and we do that too, integrating Zick Learn with their own CRM. So that, for example, once they onboard a new client on the CRM, it automatically triggers enrollment training to that client. Or I have clients who never have seen the page you're seeing, the analytics page, because all the analytics are automatically transported into their own HR management system,
right,
where they want to have a single perspective on the user.
Okay.
So in the short term, I believe Zick Learn has to be compatible with every LMS on the market. Why this? Because they are there, and for the good or the bad, they are there to stay for the next few years. And I'll get back to the vision in a few seconds. So since I cannot beat them, I'm not even interested in focusing in beating them at their own game. I want to change the game. And for now, I'm happy to see that within a single client, we grow by word of mouth. So I have a client, for example, who started with 300 users. The next month, there were 700. And this month, they're reaching 8,000. Why is happening this? We're not selling, we're not doing internal sales. We grow naturally. Our strategy is to land and expand. And we grow through two different directions. Number one, learner managers. seeing that the results they get through Zick Learn are much better on what they're getting on any other way of training their organization. And number two, through the learners who speak to their peers about how fast and easy and simple and fun the experience on Zick Learn was. We have 97 NPS. I won't cite numbers, but I believe Apple is has a much lower NPS compared to us. And this is because we make the life of our learners simple, and we make the learners their learning experience effective. As simple as that. And when it comes to my vision, I believe we are, to say the least, at a flattening of the growth curve of the LMSs. If I am fully transparent, I think the curve is already going down. It was a huge path that started beginning of 2000 with when organizations moved from in-person trainings to digital training to e-learning. By the way, 50% of the largest corporations in the world still rely on in-person trainings, on physical training. And what we're witnessing today is the birth of a new curve, which is what we're doing and what our competitors are doing. And it's the reason why microlearning is becoming so popular.
Yeah,
I thought that I would never have worked in a buzzword industry. It looks like it's happening now. So I believe that yes, in the coming years, the usage of LMSs will get smaller and smaller, while the usage of more personalized, personal learning tools will start emerging and accelerating.
I think the key word here is seamless. You've used the word seamless, and I think it's the key word here. I don't know about market share of LMSs in the future. It's hard to predict. You mentioned a couple of trends, but it's hard to predict, and it's hard to predict how they will react to the changing industry. But I think the reactions will have to be in the direction of seamlessness, because even learning managers, their time is expensive, and tools such as Zick Learn that give a seamless option, a very frictionless option, can make learning managers save a lot of time while delivering effective trainings. And so to kind of complete the circle of what you've said, whether LMSs are gonna lose market share or not, I'm not sure, but definitely the direction of Zick Learn in seamlessness is what I agree, and I believe is gonna be probably a big chunk of the future direction of corporate training. Matteo, thanks a lot for being with me today here. I look forward to your launches of the new features you were mentioning today with us in the coming days, if I understood that correctly. The slides being dragged onto Zick Learn and the micro trainings being originated from the slides. That's a feature that's coming up on Zick Learn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really look forward to these feature launches, and thanks a lot for being with me today.
Thank you, Luigi. Thank you, everybody, for watching us. And remember, learning is just one text away.
Thank you.